everybody to this very special episode of Tea and Tea with my friend Sadie, who is a master herbologist and tea maker. So, as boss woman Sadie pours the tea, we will just kind of check in with ourselves and remind ourselves that our emotions are fluid, and that, like the tea, we can decide what emotions we want to put into our body, because we're mainly water, right? 72% water, and then the other rest of the percentage is kind of earthy. So we're mainly fluid, we're mainly changeable. Us to our Pisces. So if you're watching and you're Pisces, welcome to the Pisces Talk.
I was gonna say, welcome to the Pisces podcast. Here we are.
So Sadie, for anyone who doesn't know you already, who are you? What do you do, and what's your purpose here, do you feel, on Earth?
Yeah, so my name is Sadie Schultz, and I am a certified clinical herbalist, but really I resonate more with being a plant witch and a medicine woman. So I own a couple of businesses here in Colorado. I own the Spice and Tea Exchange in Idaho Springs, and I'm also co-owner of the Woodbury Collective here in Blackhawk. And both of those businesses really help me meet my purpose, which is bringing plants to the people and letting people really know that Mother Earth has everything to work and support us in allyship. You know, really, it's about all of us working together in reciprocity, and Mother Earth provides pretty much all. Actually, all.
Yeah.
So, not pretty much. So purpose is to bring plants to people and to help meet people where they are. You know, at the Spice and Tea, it's super approachable. It's a really, like, everyone can feel seen, heard, accepted there. It's very easy, approachable, beginner, entry level, just what comes into your body, good food, good tea, good things inside. And then here at the Woodbury, I have my clinical herbalism practice, and that's really more of a medicinal side of things, working with people on kind of finding that inner balance and finding the root and using plants to help support.
So what would you recommend to anyone who is watching, who is really just beginning, or maybe even so beginner level herbology that the only tea medicine that they've had is like some really sugary Lipton iced tea or Arnold Palmer or something?
Right?
What would you recommend for somebody who's just starting to get interested in plant magic, get interested in plant medicine? What would you recommend to someone who's at that like foundational level to get that strong foundation for an herbalism practice for themselves or their family, or maybe a possible career path?
Yeah, I would say learning how to make a cup of loose leaf tea. Really, and not just how to make a cup of loose leaf tea, but taking 5 minutes out of your day while you're brewing your loose leaf tea to sit and be with that plant and look at it while it's brewing. We have really cool, in this day and age, guys, we have the coolest stuff. Like, this is a clear tea kettle. It's my favorite because I can see all the magical babies inside of here, like doing all of their magical things. I can watch the color of the liqueur, the water. It change as the plants release their essential oils into the liqueur. I can see which sink to the bottom, which float to the top. So loose leaf tea, in difference to, say, a bag of tea or buying a bottle of Lipton, you get the actual tea leaf, and you're really getting to experience all of its magic, and you can see it. And really, like, there's some amazing, really great, delicious, approachable flavors when it comes to tea. And you can have pretty much, we have a tea at the Spice and Tea shop that literally tastes like orange Julius. It's like an orange creamsicle tea. Like, who doesn't love that? And you can add honey to make it sweet and healthy. So that's my first step, is how to brew a really proper cup of tea from loose leaf. So loose leaf tea. Tea in America, we say tea is anything brewed hot in a cup, but tea is actually a tea leaf, Camellia sinensis, the plant. And then, you know, you have herbal tea, which is herbs, spices, nuts, berries, barks, all the different things. And then you can mix all of those herbs with tea leaf and you create really awesome tea blends. So you really, it's like endless. So simple thing, learn how to make a cup of loose leaf tea and take 5 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, every morning for years now, since starting qigong, I've done tea and qi, and I get up every morning, have a cup of medicinal tea, hydrate, and then practice qigong with the energy. So that's all very fluid, and we're mostly fluid. And this is what a lot of people are learning, is that it doesn't always have to be so textbook, structured, earthy, practical way of learning in life. You can let things flow into your life, and that's something that I feel really strongly about with tea, is that it's reminding me that I don't have to really have so much structure. I just have this water, and then I decide what goes into this water, and it's same thing, like I decide what goes into my body.
Yeah.
And that's the really good allegory or metaphor that I like to use for not just tea, but all of herbalism, is that you have inner garden. You have an inner garden, and say you introduce something like lavender to help you relax in your tea, then you have like this beautiful lavender garden, like my shirt, growing inside, and then outside. And that leads me to my next question for you, is how can herbology benefit one's life? And that's a huge question.
Yeah, that's so big. Oh my gosh, where to even start? Okay, so what I resonated most about what you just said was about practice and routine. So what I love about herbalism, especially when you come to the side of tea, you know, there's so many ways to intake herbs into your vessel. Like you can do, there are really so many, it's limitless. But I love tea because number one, it's approachable. Number two, it's equality. Really, like anyone can do it. Even if you're going to your local grocery store and just buying chamomile tea bags, you're getting the goodness. It's still going. You can really access tea anywhere in the world, or infusion anywhere in the world. And so what I love about creating practice around herbs is being able to, again, like you say, create a practice out of it, a ritual, something that every day you take 5 minutes to slow down, be with the herbs, be with the plants, and allow your heart to open to them. Because they're alive, they're energetic, they're here for us, with us. I mean, plants literally breathe our exhale, and we breathe their exhale. We are interdependent. Literally, without plants, we cannot survive on this Mother Earth. And so when we're taking them into our body, we're also adding that next layer of oneness to learn and open our heart to them. So for me, I have a morning tea practice and I have a night tea practice. And that's where I started, really, when I first started with herbalism and learning about herbs. It was just opening my heart in the morning and opening my heart at night to the medicine, to the wisdom. Plants are like us, you know, in their DNA, they carry all of the memories of every single thing that has happened in that plant's lineage. So when you're opening yourself up to that plant, that's a lot of information that you can access through just opening it up and really sitting, being still with a plant. So I think the biggest thing that herbalism can do for people is open their hearts to wisdom.
Yeah, I love the way that you brought it to this level of animism, but also honoring the ancestors of plants. And that's something I've thought about briefly, but if you are intaking this plant, say something like you're intaking...
Well, let's talk about what we're taking right now.
Yeah.
You know, right now we've got a lot of plants in here, but like let's talk nettle. You're taking nettle into your body. Nettle is one of the most amazing things that grows on our planet because it literally is mineral dense. It's so many minerals, more minerals than like if you were to chew on soil. So it has so many minerals, and we don't really get a lot of minerals in especially in our American style diet. So when you're intaking a cup of nettle tea, you're opening your body up to full body mineral wellness. And then again, all the wisdom that comes from that nettle plant. And nettle has been naturalized on every single continent.
Yeah, to imagine not just the small perspective of like, oh, I'm drinking this nettle tea, but like what you said with imagining all of the memories of that plant going back to the Native American medicine women and medicine men. Mm-hmm. And you said every continent, that includes Australian, Aboriginal medicine people, mm-hmm. Indigenous, witchy, wizardy European people, the African tribal leaders, South American shamans. Mm-hmm. All of these people have touched and worked with this plant. Uh-huh. And something I like to think of with nettle specifically is that certain plants have kind of a protective quality.
Oh, nettle.
Metaphysically and physically. So like you touch nettle and you go, and you get that weird stinging sensation. And I look at that as all of the benefits that it's having physically and scientifically are also occurring metaphysically in the kind of unseen or psychic worlds. Whereas like, say, Native Americans with utilizing the cactus, whether it's the prickly pear or San Pedro or peyotes, like this protective medicine, whereas you're having a plant that's having these sharp points to kind of put up that boundary and that protection, but also a metaphor for how we can act within our lives. We're learning from the plants as we're speaking with the plants. So when you're speaking with plants, coming from now more psychic kind of telepathic stuff, is they don't speak English, they speak emotion, they speak energy in motion. So you connect with a tree or a plant, just sit and exchange emotion, and you'll start to receive profound downloads. I mean, I've sat under some trees and with some herbs and grown some herbs, and the information and the magic that comes from it is really potent. And that's a good leeway to my next question I want to ask you is, with herbology, you get this real sense if you dive deep enough and not go superficially, you dive deep enough that, whoa, this is a magical practice. Yeah. Like something out of Harry Potter or something out of something seemingly fiction is actually something that you can practice and become a master herbalist, and then you have this magic. So what do you feel is the path of the mystical or magical herbalist?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. I think that there are ways of thought. You know, I think to each own soul, to each own frequency is your own way of practice. I don't necessarily ever believe that there's one right way. I think it's all about resonance. For me personally, I think the talk of really sitting and opening your heart space to plants and trusting intuition. Knowing that you know without knowing. When you sit with a plant, so a lot of my apprentices, what we do is we do an herb of the month, right? So we pick an herb, whatever it be, whatever calls to their heart, and we sit with that plant for one whole month, and we make it in every single way you can possibly make it. We make it a tea, we make it a tincture, we make it a salve, we make it, a decoction. We do all the different things, and we intake that, and we sit with it, and we open our heart space to it. We journal about it, we read about it, we try to find it in nature. We look at it in nature and see what is it open to teaching us in nature. Who are its friends? Who does it love to play with? And then you really start thinking, okay, now who is this here for support? What is this allyship? And opening that knowing and following that knowing and really connecting to your own soul's lineage when it comes to your internal knowing. For me, my love and interaction with plants and herbs is deeply rooted inside of me, generation of my linear family, but then also my soul has been and worked and been in relationship with the plant life. And so I can touch and smell a plant and I know without knowing, without opening a book, without having to Google it or whatever, I can feel that plant's energy, its gifts, its offering. And when I see someone, I can see them and I'm like, oh, this plant is for you.
Oh,
This plant is for you. Like almost immediately, just like by seeing their aura, by seeing their energetic, by seeing the color of their skin, where they're holding their water, you know, if they're hot, if they're cold, if they're damp, if they're dry, you know, I can look at them and be like, oh, these plants are your friends. Can you drink these, please? You know, and that to me is magic.
Yeah.
You know, that to me is immediately magic. And for me, another thing that's magic is I blend a custom formulation for someone and they come back to me and they're like, that was exactly what I needed. That supported me so much. That made such a huge impact. And that to me, in and of itself, is magic. Because again, I'm just a vessel. These beautiful creatures are just working through me and with me. And so when we can use that as a channel to really create expansion and healing and support, I mean, we are living in a stressed out world. Our people are stressed, they're angry, they're frustrated, they're in this state of negative polarity, constantly pulling them down deeper and darker and darker. And the beauty of plants is that they are that hand up. Here, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Pull you out of that darkness, pull you into the light, if even only for 5 minutes while you're drinking that cup of tea, to just really feel it as it goes down your throat. And that's what I talk to my apprentices about, is like, when you're doing Herb of the Month, it's not just about what it tastes like in your mouth. It's like, what does it feel like in your throat? What does it feel like in your heart center? What does it feel like when it gets down into your sacral chakra? What does it feel like as it like warms your body or cools your body? Like, what are the sensations? Does it make your hands sweat? Does it make your mouth dry? Does it, you know, what are all of those beautiful actions? That is all magic. It's being aware of all of the energetic frequencies available. So that's my 2 cents on all of that.
Made me emotional, that part about the handout, because it makes me think of this time I had a friend of mine from martial arts who reached out to me and said, hey, he was depressed and like thinking about killing himself, and I was just, the first thing my intuition said is go to the health food store and just introduce him to some St. John's wort. And so we went to this health food store on Long Island where I'm from, and I was like, look, I know you're not doing too great with money, so I'd get you some St. John's wort and a smoothie and some magnesium. And he reached out to me a few days later. He's like, dude, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good now. And that's so. Then my good friend Jack, who's also a master herbalist, he's takes me through my hometown on Long Island and just is showing me St. John's wort, which is so good for alleviating mood and that hand up out of depression. It's just this beautiful little yellow flower that you could just like find on the beach on Long Island. You go in the forest and you're like having this free medicine. And in your mouth, that little tiny yellow flower, it's like bursts of sunshine. Yeah. You know? And that to me, when you see a plant in nature, when you see where it is, you can see so much of what its gifts are. Like you talked about the stinging nettle. Like you touch that and it stings and it hurts. But if you have rheumatoid arthritis or really bad joint inflammation and you purposefully sting to those areas, it's a benefit. It brings protection to that area. So again, when you see a little tiny St. John's wort flower, if you haven't seen them in person, everyone, find yourself a St. John's wort. Even if you find it online and you just see a picture of this little yellow beauty,
it is like the most adorable. I mean, to me, it speaks of fairies and fairy magic because it just looks like the fairies made it just specifically for that beautiful sunshiny lightness, that brightness in your soul and your heart. And so it really does speak to its beauty and its magic when you can look and find it in nature. You're like, oh wow, just looking at it makes me want to smile.
Yeah.
And then I put it in my mouth. Oh my gosh, this really makes me want to smile. And then I drink it. Oh, wow, this is shining light in some super dark spaces. On the note though, always say, if you are taking any kind of pharmaceuticals, we didn't do a disclaimer, I normally do a disclaimer. I am not a doctor, I'm an herbalist and holistic health educator. Your health is your own personal responsibility. Never take an herb without knowing if it has pharmaceutical interactions, because herbs interact with pharmaceuticals. So St. John's wort particularly is one of those that if you're on certain pharmaceuticals, you need to be really, really cautious and consult a clinical herbalist or your doctor. Google is not a doctor, just so you know. But again, consulting a practitioner is really, really important. It's also really important to know your body. You know it better than anyone, and your health is your own personal responsibility. So that's my little 2 cents as we're talking about something that does have a lot of unfortunate interactions with pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, and that's the power of herbalism too, is when you're utilizing synthetic drugs, which is basically synthetic means you can synthesize it, you can make it out of nothing. So it's like making money out of nothing. So there you go on that note. But none of these plants will like mess you up as hard as a synthetic would. And one of my best friends, Alton Sanders, said something really great. He's like, if you introduce something unnatural to your body will immediately reject it. It doesn't matter how many years or how much money somebody put into a medical degree. If you introduce a synthetic or artificial material, even in your diet, your body will go bleh, because your body has been gifted to you by the earth, by your ancestors, to be this conduit of energy for all of nature. So in qigong, you learn to channel the energies of heaven and earth. In yoga, you learn to channel the energies of the different asanas and the elements. And through herbalism, especially Native American and shamanic herbalism, you're working with the medicine wheel. And when I look at the medicine wheel, if you take too much lavender, it's not gonna like mess you up hard at all. It'll make you sleepy, but like when I look at risk rewards, I'm very practical. Even though I'm very spiritual, I'm very practical. I look at the people who are actually healthy and the risk rewards of different lifestyles. And when you look at the people who are actually healthy and doing what most people want to be doing at 90, 100 years old, those people are Chinese and Japanese having medicinal tea every morning.
Yeah, Indian, yeah.
Indian having the chai tea every morning. The Tibetan people and the Himalayan people, they live till they're like 90, 100, still going hiking, still going up and down parts of the mountains.
I mean, I think Western medicine has its place. I mean, I think that there's a fairness to the expansion of technology and what we have learned about our human body and the gifts that technology has given us. I do concern that it has been corrupted quite a bit by profit over people. That doesn't mean that I'm anti-Western medicine. I feel like when properly used, it is complementary to traditional, indigenous, Eastern, and Western style medicine. Now, to say there are herbs that can fucking kill you. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There are poisonous plants on this planet. There are belladonnas, there are mandrakes, there are things that literally can kill you. And when you engage the medicine, the magic in those plants is extraordinarily potent as well. Again, it's about education. It's about opening your heart and spirit to understanding and being really open to it. You know, again, I learn every day something new about a plant. I learn something every day, learn about the magic that surrounds us. And your health is yours. You know, we have externalized wellness. I go to the doctor, I have a headache, he gives me this medication, I'm better. Why do you have a headache? Where did the headache come from? The headache is a signal from your body that something is out of balance. What is it? You put a medicine, put a synthetic on it, sure, the headache will go away, but the root, the reason you have a headache, it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So the difference that I find between synthetic pharmaceuticals and herbs is that herbs, again, as an herbal practitioner, I'm not going to treat your symptoms. I'm going to look for the root of the issue. And the herbs, now they will work towards bringing your body back into balance. And that can take longer than a pharmaceutical. It's not a quick fix, and it's a long-term solution versus where we're externalizing. Herbalism is an internal, is within us kind of a thing. We're not looking at, you know, when I sit with my clients, it's an hour, you know, it's not, you know, I don't know how the last time you were at the doctor, probably a long time ago, but like, I just literally went to the orthopedic and I was in that office for 15 minutes. And it was like, we're talking about orthopedic, we're talking about actual structural, and they didn't even touch me, Owen. They didn't even touch me. And they were like, this, and this. And I'm like, you don't even know me. Like, you don't know anything about me.
Yeah.
You don't know that my constitution runs hot and dry and that I struggle with inflammation. You don't know, like, it didn't ask me any appropriate questions that I would ask my clients when talking about pain, for example. I have pain. Okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know you have pain. Where is the pain? Is it hot pain? Is it dry pain? Is it tingling pain? What makes the pain improve? What makes the pain worse? Like, these are all questions that as you move through, different friends for different problems. No two people are alike. So the way you interact with, say, turmeric and the way I interact with turmeric could be totally different. Same thing, you know, of course, with, you talk about drugs, they don't think about that. You know, one size fits all.
Yeah, and that's really the ultimate power of Eastern medicine, is it goes and nourishes and heals the root of everything. So to answer your question about the last time I've been to a doctor, is to get a scan on my foot. And I haven't been to a doctor for any actual illness since 2013 when I got initiated in Reiki, which is no coincidence.
No, of course not.
So
absolutely not.
When I went to the doctor, it was for a fracture I got in my foot.
Again, practical.
Yeah.
It's practical. Again, I am no way saying that the technology that Western medicine brings us isn't valuable, because it certainly is.
But it was actually completely useless because I had fractured my foot in karate, and I heard the clicking, and it was definitely a fracture.
Right.
And I pumped Reiki into it for 8 days straight. And so I go in to get a scan because it's still feeling a little bit weird, still like a bit inflamed. And the scan comes back, the doctor's like, oh, well, you don't have anything going on there. It's like there's not even a sprain there. But it looks like you did fracture it a long time ago. When did you get this injury? Like 8 months ago? And I was like, no, 8 days ago. And he was like looking at the chart, looking at my foot, looking at the chart, like confused, and like, yeah, I pumped Reiki into it for 8 days. Like
I'm a healer.
So he's like, either you didn't get any injury at all, which definitely didn't happen because I had literally my foot was clicking, like I could feel the bone going, and he said, or you heal really fast. So that to me was saying like, okay, what is the use of even going in here? And then in 2020, when I was invited to become a traditional Reiki master, after studying Chinese medicine and massage therapy and like deeply immersing myself in holistic medicine, yoga, qigong, all of this, I had torn my meniscus in a yoga pose I was doing. I went in, got the scan. They said, yep, it's torn. You can look at it right here. And then I literally, with not just Reiki, but with herbology and with a plant-based diet, I was able to literally meld the cartilage of the meniscus back together. Mm-hmm. And that to me is just, why would I ever go see another Western doctor or even support that system of paying what, $30,000 a year, $40,000 sometimes, for 8 years for a doctorate, and someone goes through hell to get this doctorate, and then they're not even learning how to do things like that. Mm-hmm. They're not learning Reiki, they're not learning. It's very racist, Western medicine. It's like European, Germanic, yeah. This is how it is, and everything else is woo-woo. Well, woo-woo, qigong and kung fu master Louis Zhejian lived through 3 centuries. He lived to 118 years old, was born in the late 1800s, died in 2012. And this dude, I'm telling you, was doing full kung fu bends, full knee balances, drinking his tea. And I'm like, why would I ever listen to somebody who's like, on TV, I think it's hilarious now that they have like these obese, like zombie-looking health professionals saying like, oh, this is what you have to do to protect yourself. It's like, why would I listen to you? That's like, imagine if you went into the gym and then there's this 400-pound obese shows up with a bag of McDonald's and like, ready to work out, ready to get fit. It's like, no, not with you. I'll go hike.
You know, and I think that's where, if we could return to integrative medicine, you know, we're really understanding that we are so limitedly tapped into the power of our own bodies, into the power of our own energetics. We really are just scratching the surface of lost knowledge. You know, we have lost so much knowledge over the course of, you know, thousands and thousands of years of comfort culture, in my opinion, to capitalism, to profit over people. And if we could return to that original integrative oneness, that village mentality, you know, there is a point to say it's helpful to you to know exactly where that meniscus is in imaging, where it's torn, because then you have an exact location for you to send your healing, to send your energy. And when you're intaking your plants, you can literally speak to them and say, please go to this exact location. So that scan, you can see it as a benefit to say, I have a visual image that I can also pinpoint an exact location. I think about my neck injury. I was in a car accident almost a year ago, and I really hurt my neck. Hardcore whiplash. This lady rear-ended me on I-70, she was going like 70, I was going like 40, and like jammed my shoulder back, and really hardcore injury to my neck. After I got the scan, I had this ability to really see the exact location of where it is. And with working with my practitioners, my acupuncturist, my chiropractor, my body worker, the herbs that I'm intaking, it's targeted action, right? Like very specific, narrow focus. Whereas before the scan, we were like neck in general. You know, neck, shoulder in general. Now we can pinpoint the exact location where that injury is and know exactly what it looks like. And like, also, it'll be cool when in a year from now, I can go back and be like, oh, look, it's gone. When the orthopedic was like, well, you're just gonna have to cope with this for the rest of your life. And I was like, no.
Nope.
No, I'm not gonna cope with this for the rest of my life. Thank you though, you know, I appreciate your offer to cope with this for the rest of my life. And that's, to me, the fundamental difference, really. when it comes to holistic magic approach and Western limited approach is that I see everything as something that we can work through to find balance, to heal from. This is for you. This is an invitation. This is, and again, I'm sure as you know in all of your practices, it's emotional and spiritual. It's never just physical.
Yeah. And what I always go back to, and this is just a universal kind of shamanic belief, it's not just Chinese, although there's very Taoist, Buddhist qualities to it, is that matter comes from spirit, not the other way around. Matter in, say, Hinduism has a really good allegory, good story for explaining it. It's like Shiva is the god of death, and he's also the god of the physical world and matter.
Yeah.
And without Krishna or the heart consciousness or Brahma, the creator's universal consciousness, Shiva's just like matter is just dead.
Yeah.
It's just non-existent until you put that spark into it. And that spark to me is, I like to call it magic, but if I'm talking to somebody who is more scientific brained, more masculine brained, it's the placebo effect.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, that's not as fun to say
No,
placebo
let's
effect.
just call it magic, what
So,
it
like,
is. Yeah.
If I can use the magic of my mind to have this tea and say this tea is going to have profound medical benefits for me all the way around, and I'm going to connect to the plant spirit, I'm already boosting my immune system just because I'm having fun.
Right? Joy, giggle, laughter, fun, childlike wonder. These are things, you know, when you see a young child wandering through the forest, they're getting down and getting, look at this buttercup, a fairy can come out of it. And like, these are knowings, you know, you talk, that's silly. You shouldn't think like, I just want to smack those people and be like, stop, that is magic. Stop, let them think there is a fairy coming out of that buttercup. Like, that is that childlike joy that we've gotten so serious. You know, when I see, okay, I have to show this because this is just gonna like, it blows me away. Step out of camera for 2 seconds, but. So
yes.
Right.
My fave.
So when we talk about childlike wonder, people that know me know I am an herb lover. I get geeked out and I get like gooey eyed and like, oh my gosh, over plants. And this plant specifically is a magical plant. But the first time, generally when I see it, I just see it as petals, okay? So like loose leaf petals and some stamen, never whole flower. Literally, I squeed when I saw this. I was like, oh my gosh! Like I got so excited. Guys, these are blue lotus flowers. I wanna find a really pretty one. These are blue lotus flowers. So the Egyptians called this the party drug of the Egyptians. It's a pineal gland opener. It's a lucid dream activator. It is sheer, and when you look at this, don't you think magic? I mean, for heaven's sakes, look at this thing.
I mean, I'm so glad you brought this up because I wanted to talk about blue lotus specifically. The first time I had blue lotus tea, just like that whole dried flower, immediately I realized that the spirit of this lotus flower is what taught Hinduism and Buddhism to the Indian and Asian people.
Can I smell this?
Like the amount of compassion and wisdom and spirit within this flower, it just completely, any part of my consciousness that wasn't animist, and animist is like you believing that a tree is also thinking, feeling, and existing in a similar way that your consciousness works. Any of that wasn't animist,
it went away.
Because I was like, this is...
It literally is. It's a vibrational activator. I think the first time I drank blue lotus tea, I also had a similar effect. It was like I could feel things breathing around me in a way, like an energetic way. You know, obviously we know plants breathe, trees breathe, all those things. One thing that I love about the interaction with blue lotus is it opens you to a level of seeing energetic breath and seeing the value of what's around you. And really, dream lodge. I mean, into that dream, like I resonate really heavily with the indigenous teachings of the Mesoamerica regions, and that dream lodge state is one of the most powerful gateways on our medicine wheel. It's a way for us to interact with things. And Blue Lotus, like you said, in that Eastern tradition, was about opening yourself to knowledge that has been lost. Yeah. And through indigenous medicine, knowledge that has been lost is accessed through dream lodge. And because of our stressed out culture and our adrenal fatigue and our lack of actual REM sleep, lack of those waves, those gamma and the beta, and really not understanding brain frequency and wavelengths, a lot of people don't dream. And if they do dream, they don't remember their dreams.
No more fluoride toothpaste for you. Get some Dr. Bronner's.
But Blue Lotus is an excellent way to set intention if you want to start remembering your dreams. And if you're interested in lucid dreaming and learning how to participate and be in your dreams, this is one of the most magical, childlike, inner child wonder activators that you can get. And honestly, for the feminine aspect, this in bath, divinity.
Yeah, and to polarize that, for this particular medicine, Blue Lotus, is so powerful also for men, especially because I've had a history of martial arts, and I was a wrestler in Shaolin and Goju-Ryu karate, and I was very had this warrior excess kind of Mars energy, and drinking Blue Lotus is so feminine. I was tuning back into the compassion and
it's also an aphrodisiac. For men. Not that it isn't for women too, but for men specifically, it pairs with the testosterone and it does these things. You can also smoke Blue Lotus. It's a great smokable herb. Love it with some Damiana and some mugwort right before bed, some mullein,
Yeah, and to come back to what you were saying earlier about connecting with the ancestry of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
The ancestry also of the plant connects you to your own ancestors. And being somebody who has, from a DNA test and from psychics internal studies, I've realized that my most ancient ancestors are Chinese Mongolian. So when I'm drinking Blue Lotus tea or ginkgo biloba, which is the ancient Chinese tree, it's connecting me to all my ancestors who have connected with this plant.
Yep.
So connecting all the way to the ancient mysteries of the Himalayas and the Wudang Mountains and the Mongolian hills. And then also I have Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry, which is Egyptian, Israeli, and Turkish. And so connecting to that ancient Egyptian magic, which has been, pardon my French, bastardized by a lot of secret societies nowadays, have stolen Egyptian magic and made it this all-seeing eye, dark, kind of spooky thing. But old Egyptian utopia has this Blue Lotus, compassionate goddess worship. The female is above, the man does the hunting and the gathering and the protecting and the lifting and is not trying to fulfill the role of the feminine, because it's not entirely possible. It's partially possible, but that's with feminine plant spirits especially. You have this sense of humble to the goddess. Humble to the goddess. God is not this white dude with a gray wizard beard.
Maybe he is.
In the sky. But it's one part of him.
Yeah, one part of him could. I think that really brings me to an excellent kind of closing thought kind of point, is that one of the most amazing things that I love about working with, in herbalism, in the non-traditional format, people say you use herbs. I really, number one, I hate that. Hate is a strong word. Dislike that strongly. You're working with these beautiful energetics, and there will be those moments of magic where you take a sip. For me, it was chamomile and tulsi. Drinking that tea the first time in an intentional manner, like you spoke of, it opened lineages in my knowing, and it was like an impactful, transformative experience that changed the entire course of how I felt like I could show up. Those plants literally saved me. They reconnected me to knowing, to wisdom, to lineages that have been supportive of me. And just, I was like, what happened? What was that? Like drinking this one cup of tea, and it was like life changing because I was open and receptive.
Yeah.
It's all you need. All you need with herbal medicine, guys, is open and receptive. That's it. Just that one spark. I'm ready. I'm open. I'm receptive. And love.
Yeah. And
drink it down, and then you're like, oh yeah, this is delicious. And then before you know it, you're like breathing, and you're like getting visions of like all these things, and you're like, where did this come from? It came from the beautiful friends in your cup, guys. Like,
I'm so glad you said that again, because that plant allyship and that plant friendship is such a beautiful way of putting it, rather than like I'm taking this, I'm using this, which is the best, very like
capitalistic,
colonizer kind of energy. But like that's such a fun is the word for it. If you're into like anything metaphysical or fantastical, is like when you find a plant friend, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. Like a helpful friend, but like in your inner world.
Oh yeah.
For me, it was mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I mean, I feel like all mycelium, all mushrooms are magical, but when I connected with the reishi mushroom, oh my goodness. In Chinese medicine, reishi is one of the only medicines that can restore your physical life force. So a lot of herbs and plants in Chinese medicine boost your qi, which is this universal shared life force. But your ancestral and your sexual and your jing energy, this physical life force, is kind of like the hourglass of your life. And when I connected with reishi, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is like a sage of a plant, of a fungus.
Oh yeah, wisdom. It's a wisdom.
This is like connecting with that wise kung fu master on top of Wudang Mountain.
100%, which understands why it resonates so much when I know your lineage and I know where you like. Again, it is one of those things where it just, they are our friends. They're here for us and with us. Again, the thing that always brings me back to that is that we are so interdependent. You know, they literally, all plant life literally breathes every exhale that we have, and we literally breathe in every bit of their exhale. And that intertwinement, that dependency in its purest, most beautiful form, it's never ending. They're always with us, and we can tap into their energy even when we're not drinking it. You know, I have chamomile and tulsi literally tattooed on my body, but I don't need the tattoo to feel that plant's energetics, to call on tulsi, to call on chamomile, to feel that spirit, that essence within inside of me. It's with me all the time, you know, and that's why I love plants and herbology and herbalism and magic so much, because it's brought me to a new place.
Yeah, and if you get the chance to travel and woof or work trade on an organic farm or start your own garden, if you're lucky enough to have your own property, that is just another way to, you almost become like a plant dad or a plant mom.
Plant mom. Those plant moms out there that I know that are watching this, I see you, and I know how much love you have for your babies and how much they give you love. There's some really cool studies on the science of plants. There's some excellent books. about the actual science of plants and how literally there was a scientist that studied, he attached electrodes to the plant to measure its wavelength and its frequency, and he lived with these house plants, and he could prove energetically that the plants could tell when he was sad. Even when he wasn't even in the same room, far away, the plants could feel him. The Science of Plants, it's an amazing book. I will definitely link it in the show notes because the name of the author is like escaping me at this current moment. But it is like, that is a book that you gotta read because you're like, oh my gosh, like of course, like growing and energetically interacting with plants. It's the way to go.
Yeah,
more plants, everyone.
There's also Alex Gray, the visionary artist, who has a community, an intentional community in the mountains in northern Italy, and someone there created a machine that's very similar to that, except you hook up these electrodes to a plant, and then it will read the electromagnetic frequency, the chi, of the plant or mushroom, and it will play music, and it's called Music of the Plants. Oh my goodness, you plug this in and it's like, they plug it to a sunflower and it's like angels singing. They plug it to this ancient Bodhi tree and it's like this deep, like wise, powerful tree. And it's just like, as a psychic and as a telepath who like I'm constantly communicating metaphysically, I'm like, oh, I've heard that. Like when the sunflowers sing that angel chorus, I'm like, that's what I feel when I'm speaking with the plant. And then it's just, like you said, integrating the Western technology that's a cool wizardly contraption. And on kind of a finishing note, because we could talk forever, is you have Google most likely in your pocket, and if you don't, you most likely have it at a local library. You can, even if it's just for yourself, even if it's just selfish, or if you're doing it for friends and family or for the world, you can literally just Google lemongrass health benefits, mint health benefits, and the contraindications, all that, and you could literally give yourself a free education.
There's tons of free resources out there for learning about plants, and the one thing that I tell you that I really highly encourage for anyone that wants to learn about plants is start with one. Start with one that resonates with your heart and work with it for a whole month, daily, every day. Yeah, cacao for sure. Find the one thing and Google it. There's tons of free education, tons of content on YouTube, tons of content on Instagram, tons of podcasts out there that talk about herbs. One of my favorite podcasts is the Commonwealth Herbal Podcast. They're doing an A through Z Latin name podcast on each herb. So you can find the Latin name of the herb, find its podcast, listen. That's all free content, guys. Free content. So to connect with me, I'm always down to chat herbs. I am Sadie Schultz on Instagram, and I'm not on Facebook, so don't try to reach me there. But if you reach me on Instagram, it's I am Sadie Schultz. And again, I have a clinical herbalism practice in Blackhawk, Colorado, and then the Spice and Tea Shop is in Idaho Springs, Colorado. And all of my staff there love to talk plants too. So and you can find you all over the place.
Yeah, the Oracle Owen. Yeah, and then also, so Woodbury Collective and Tea and Spice Exchange here in Colorado is awesome, like an hour west of Denver, right?
Yeah.
And also my friend Jack has he's like the Steve Irwin of plants. So he has this awesome, he's a cinematographer also, he has powerful plant allies. And he goes out into nature, and he's just like,
his content's
it's
awesome,
so good.
guys.
He's like how Steve Irwin interacts with the alligator or snake, and is like talking about how beautiful it is. He's like doing that with plants, but he's like so when I first met him, I'm like, this dude talks to plants so much. You can feel it. You can like, you're going into the trees, and literally you would walk into the forest with him, and everything would start dancing. No wind at all.
Oh yeah.
And like with you, when you're with a medicine man or woman, when you walk into nature and stuff starts like dancing without the wind, you're like,
You're like, energy, energy. Well, thanks for having me today, and thanks for talking with me here in my apothecary, and I can't wait to do another one of these, because we gotta get and talk for
This is fantastic. We gotta get Jack out here.
Ooh, yeah.
He has a sequel episode that we have to do, because his episode we like had technical difficulties halfway through. But that would be awesome to have like a 3-person tea and tea
round table,
spice things up.
Yeah.
Full tea ceremony.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Expansion. Springtime. Wood element. Chinese medicine. All about expansion, compassion, kindness, detoxing your liver. Stop drinking alcohol.
Drink more nettle.
Tea instead.
Lots of nettle. Lots of nettle, guys. Well, thanks for joining us today. And again, you can find Owen at the Oracle Owen on Instagram. And you can find me, I am Sadie Schultz, on Instagram as well. And we really appreciate all of your time today, guys.
Big love to you. Shay Shay. Namaste.